Fade us into the.
Woohoo!
There we are.
Cooking with gas.
So that should be the Pro Tools screen up on OBS. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it says we got some people here, so I'm assuming it's working. If anybody, I can't see who's watching, but just let us know if you can hear us. That'd be awesome. And if you can see us and see the Pro Tools screen, that would be rad. And Gav, maybe you can just play a quick little snippet of the audio too, and we'll just do like a little testeroo.
I don't want to give it all away.
I mean, we already gave it away a week ago, but
That's true. You did give it away a week ago.
okay. Tanner says it's working. He can hear us and he can see us plus Pro Tools, so we're good to rock.
Awesome. Well, congrats on another single release.
Yeah, man.
Cheers to that.
I want to see if there's a way for me to get the live chat, pop-up chat. Boom, that's what I wanted, so I don't have to look at
I
it.
better pop headphones on.
Cool. So thanks for tuning in, folks, and we're back at it again. The first time we had some streaming issues, and we've changed some things around. Gavin's been working really hard. He's essentially an IT guy now.
That's what I needed a screwdriver for.
And yeah, we're going to be breaking down My Drugs, My Dreams, which is the second single off my new record, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. But me and Gav were talking this afternoon about just like kind of getting into it and playing the track, and then I think Gav's going to discuss what we have on the mix bus. Does that still sound like a good plan, Gav?
Yep, I love it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's play the whole track, and I'm going to have a beer, and away we go.
All right, here we go.
or the script of a dreamer that I love to play. It goes on. Take away my trust, take away my dreams. I wanna clear my mind. Give me time to think. Don't know where I ever run into. Don't know if I can. I wanna feel the wind carrying all my cares. Take away my trust, take away my dreams. I wanna clear my mind. Give me time to think. Don't know where I'm running to. Don't know if I can. I wanna feel the wind carrying all my cares.
Awesome.
Nice to nice to hear that.
I realized about halfway through that I didn't have the prime time on. I don't know if you heard that, like, go.
I heard you go, oops.
The thing gets so hot, I always turn it off. I left everything else on, but it gets hot and then it starts like malfunctioning. So I turned it off and I forgot to turn it back on. That's usually how it goes here, actually, is that I have to print things twice because I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot to turn that back on. But yeah, so we were listening to the actual, like, we weren't listening to the printed mix that you and I signed off on. That was actually what's happening right now, based on my recall from the Mix with the Bastards session.
It's awesome.
Which was interesting because it actually, sorry, I'm maybe diving in right away, but
No, go for it.
I changed the order of the mix bus, I think, throughout the process of us mixing the record, and I don't know where this fell in the scheme of it, but I patched things in the way I patch things now versus how I patched them at the beginning when we were mixing. So it's actually, I find it pretty interesting to listen to the difference. I mean, it's subtle, but like, excuse me, this is the printed mix.
It's almost like the new one feels exciting or something.
It's a little
bit more exciting.
A little bit more bombastic. Also, yeah, there's just like, it's a little heavier, I think. And I'm pretty sure that when we mixed it through the SSL compressor. This was like the only one we did that. Like, it should sound a bit more modern than the rest of the record.
Yeah.
And I first I left the Compex in, and I listened to it, and I was like, man, this sounds fucking awesome. And so then I was like, oh shoot, it's the SSL. So I patched the SSL in, and then I was like, shit. So that the Compex is back in now when we're listening.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that Tom Elmhurst Adele video that you and I were talking about, where he remixes it for the tutorial, and then he listens back to the old mix, like,
and it's like,
shit.
I love it. I mean, we've talked about that thing a bunch because it's like, it's so cool that, like, I don't know, like we mixed this a year ago.
Almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years.
For real? Yeah, I guess a year. Yeah.
2 years ago in July.
So, of course, I mean, you have different gear and your ears are better. And
yeah, I mean, it's still sound. Yeah, that is questionable. My judgment's definitely gotten worse.
Yeah.
But
you've mixed a lot of records since then, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
It should sound better.
Yeah, and I mean, it's subtle, but it's definitely noticeable. The one thing that I noticed, I guess I should talk about. I'll talk about this quickly. The signal flow of the session, which is it's mostly in the box, and then there are hardware inserts that we can go over, and those hardware inserts obviously return back into the Pro Tools, and then the Pro Tools actually all goes out to this Ward Beck console via 10 different channels. Here, I'll just show it. I don't know if I did this last time. I might have, but I'll do it again. There we go. So it comes out on the board in 10 different channels, and then this board actually sums it, and you can see here. Can you see this? There's the red EQ lights are on, and there's actually EQ happening on some of the stereo pairs. So I have the drums, actually the stereo feed of the drums is being EQ'd. It's also the bass, and what I realized here, Jonas, is not something that I do that often, but I really like the way it sounded, was I EQ'd the return of the rear bus, which is essentially like an Andrew Shepp's technique, I guess. It's a parallel compression thing, but I actually EQ'd it a little bit when we were doing this. I don't usually do that, but I really liked how it sounded when I put it in. And then from there,
How drastic is that EQ, Gav? I can't really see it.
it's not super drastic. I mean, it's not a super drastic EQ. I don't know if this helps at all, but it's like 3 dB according to the knobs and the high frequency, which is just a set frequency. I don't even know exactly what it is. It's nice. And then there's a little peak around 1.5, 1.2 maybe, and then a little push on the bottom, which is
so you're all boosting.
All boosting, which is interesting because usually I would have thought for this I would be cutting, but actually almost all the EQ that I did on the Ward Beck is boosting. Sort of this almost same style thing on the bass. A little push actually closer to 4K.
But you were mixing into that. That was in play from the beginning. So did you
actually,
EQ?
I mean, a lot of it would have been in play from the beginning. I bet your rear bus thing was in play afterwards. I was just like, I want a little more push.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, yeah, it's this. I mean, and the mix bus too that I'm going over, it's all in play. For me, it's in play from the beginning, and then I just sort of go back and check it, and then I'm always checking it. I'm just always checking it, and to see if it can be sweeter or if it's great, and also it's about the gain staging too. Just to see how things are responding. So anyway, but this board, aside from the EQ, I use a multimeter and tone to set it so that it's just 0. It's in stereo pairs. And then it feeds this, not all the time, but on this mix, it feeds this retro stereo sort of Pultec EQ, which is here. And I'm sort of boost and cut at the same time with these Pultec style inductor style EQs. So I'm boosting 20 at 60 hertz and cutting 15 at 60 hertz, which seems bizarre, but it does something really cool. And then the top end, I'm sort of doing the same thing. I'm boosting a little at 10K, but I'm cutting a bit at 20K, which is interesting. I don't usually boost that much at the high end, but it sounds good for this song. So, and from there, it's going to this Compex compressor, which is a vintage. Well, it's usually kind of used as a smash box, but it's a stereo compressor, where it's a 2-channel compressor. In this case, I actually have it linked so that the compressor circuits are linked, so one side will affect the other side. It's not a dual mono. And there, when we were doing the record, we were going to this Atari 2-track quarter-inch, but since that time I acquired this Studer, and so it's going to the Studer now. No tape happening right now. I don't remember if we hit tape on this song or not. And from there, it goes to these AML 1073s, which is like a little smiley face curve on them. Often I will boost the line level a little bit. In this case, I didn't, because we didn't when we were doing it. I didn't have these actually when we made the record. Jonas had them, and after we finished making the record, I just had to go out and buy them because they sounded awesome. And then from there, they can't see because I got this new compressor in the way, but it goes into a Burl. It's kind of insane in here right now. It goes into Burl Bomber, which is just an analog to digital converter. But it's cool because you can actually set the input level that it's expecting, so you can do like sort of soft clipping on it. And right now it's set to -16, which is quite loud. And you can see there, this little red light indicates that there has been some clipping, which in this case is awesome.
We like it.
We like the clipping. It adds to the harmonic value of it. So that's sort of the analog chain. Can you still see me? No, I lost myself. For a minute there, I lost myself.
There you go.
And then from there it actually gets ingested. Well, the burl actually does the ingestion, and then it feeds. You can see it feeds back in on these two channels. And these allow me to actually, excuse me, drive my actual mix print channel if I choose to. In this song, oh yeah, you can see at the end here, we just sort of boosted, just a straight boost. How much? 0.5 dB, which I mean is quite a bit when you get actually to that stage of the record.
We did that on a couple of songs, I think, on this record.
Yeah, I think on a bunch actually. It's something that I do often, and then I also like to automate some of the mix bus stuff just to like. There's subtle things, you know, that might be a stereo width thing, it might be a low end thing, or sometimes even like a low pass filter that will come on in certain sections just to kind of make it feel like it's underwater a little bit, but subtle, you know, and then you almost don't notice it when it opens back up. And then that feeds this mix channel. In this case, it's just one channel. And the first couple things, this again has changed a bit since this time, but it's not that different. You can see I have this Crane Song tape emulation. What's it doing? I almost exclusively use the iridescent setting. I just really like it. Unless I want something a little bit more lo-fi, I find the lust setting is really dark, and sometimes I'll be fighting things and like, why is everything so hard to EQ? And I'll realize I left it set to luster. But you can see I'm only doing like 32% processing. I don't like to rely on, especially at this stage, any of these plugins to do a ton of work. So this is, you know, less than half wet, essentially, is what this process means. And then it goes to this Studer plugin, set 30 inches per second. And this is an interesting thing because it really just like gives you a nice lift in the low end. It just sort of fills out this pillowy, which I love. And then this is also often if I need to if I feel like I'm driving the rest of the chain too hard, I'll bring down the input here. And then from there, this is just a console emulation that I've had for years, and I really like it. I often flip back and forth between this Brit N, which is a Neve console emulation, or this Trident. Again, these are just like subtle little things that start to add up. This one's not so subtle, Fairchild plugin. But again, I'm not using a ton of it. This is the halfway mark, so I don't know what that is, but I would probably say 35%. And I'm using it. How am I using it here?
I'm smashing it.
Well, it's probably not. We can watch the meter, but I usually just gain the input all the way up because I really like the way the input sounds on it. And then I usually just bring the threshold until the meters are sort of, well, I listen to it, but often the meters are not going past 2. But let's see. This is the loudest moment in the song. Yeah, I mean, it really just like, I find that I more and more these days I'm just using this kind of compression just to add excitement, you know. And
yeah,
I think
add some life to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I don't know who described it to me this way, but I think you can really feel the dimensional depth because the human ear perceives depth by volume, essentially. You know, if something is approaching you, it's louder. If it's further away, it's clearer, you know. So as things are moving like this, you get this real sense of motion on that, like what do you call that, the Y plane, the Z plane? Z plane, you know, not just left and right, up and down. Anyway, but it's I really love this plugin. It's a UAD plugin. Although I was watching an Eric Valentine video today and he was talking about the Unchild also appealing. And then from there, this is just like a mid-side EQ. In this case,
I could be wrong, but I think the Fairchild is like Unity is like between 4 and 6 on it.
What do you mean?
On your input gain.
Oh, so I am driving it pretty hard then.
Yeah, I think on the, I'm not sure if that's the same thing here. I mean, you aren't because you're still at like 35% or something on the mix, but
Yeah, but I don't know, something about gaining this. I just like gaining this plug up like that.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then I only bring, the threshold's just up 2, and then I usually alternate between the 1 and 2 time constraints. Sometimes I think never on a mix would I go to the other ones. They're just not fast enough. But yeah, then there's the mid-side EQ, and that's just to help me. And also, I often will use the stereo spreader. As you see here, there's a stereo width of 134, which is quite a lot. Usually, I would be less than that.
Is 0% not spread at all?
Yeah, but sometimes the compression sort of starts to suck the sides in a little bit, so I'm just helping bring it back out.
Yeah.
And in this case, I am using a high pass on the sides, which essentially is a similar idea to using this mono maker knob. It's just like taking the real low end out of the sides, and sometimes I just find that helps clear it up. In this case, it's 104 hertz, and then
I'm always using that the Nugan filter.
Right, I've heard of that. I never tried that.
For that, and you basically like choose your cutoff, and then it monos everything below it, and it makes a huge difference.
Huh? I should try that. I mean, I assume that's a similar idea to this.
I think it is, right? It's like when there's low information out wide, it makes it sound murky, right?
It can also pose problems for people cutting vinyl. Just like actually having that low end in the other side channels can cause a needle to.
Cool.
But I do find, like you said, it's just like it gets murky, and also then it really focuses the energy on the center, and that's really like where a lot of the excitement lives. And then I find these sides are just kind of like, in some ways, what do you call it? Window dressing.
Ooh, do we?
And then I have another instance of a Pultec style thing, and this one, especially on this song, because I mean we kind of mixed this song like a gauzy sort of like 80s pop song with like sort of more modern low end. And in this case, I'm just straight up boosting at 10K, and then also pretty much boosting again at 60 hertz, which is interesting. Let's see.
Take away my trust, take away my dreams. I wanna clear my mind. Give me time to think. Don't know where I am running to.
Yeah, that's doing a lot actually, just on those. It's nice. And then the last couple things here is another EQ. Excuse me. This is a Baxnell EQ, and what am I doing here? Again, I have this set up in mid-side. So I'm widening a tiny little bit more, and in this case, I have a high shelf at 18 kilohertz, which is pretty high, and a sort of again a little bit more dipping at 74. This band at 74 hertz is awesome. I don't know why. It just sounds really good. And then I'm actually using a high-pass filter at 30 hertz here. Again, I just find it makes the whole thing a little clearer.
It's low.
It is, but I don't know. I really like doing that. It's not like when you use a high-pass filter,
Yeah.
it's gone, It's like it's still there. It's just a cut. It's a filter. Oh, wow. Then I have another shelf at 20 kilohertz, and then just a limiter at the end, I think. Let's see. Oh no, I'm doing some dynamic EQ too. It's been a while. Let's see here what that sounds like. Oh yeah, I'm just compressing that bass. I do that a lot actually. Compress below 100 hertz. And then just like a really light. You can see it's like hardly even working. Yeah, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, right. That's all. That's all there is. And actually, since being up at your place, I often find myself using that. what's the compressor called? The Wolfpack one, the Good Hertz
Oh
one.
yeah,
That thing is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's super vibey. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be really. I find that you have to be really
Yeah.
careful with it. I mean, I've had some serious. Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
got myself into trouble a couple times with it because I just fall in love with how fucked up it sounds.
It's
And
cool to run anything. You can run anything. I think as a composition tool, it's super fun because like running
yeah,
like an acoustic guitar into it or something sounds so cool and just inspire. It's just inspiring.
yeah, it immediately sounds awesome. And it's interesting because it's sort of for me, it's reminiscent of what my 501, like the Roland Chorus Echo, sounds like if I just run the chorus, like if I just return the wet and have the chorus and I don't use the dry anymore. I don't really want the chorusing effect. I just want like it does some weird filtering that immediately sounds like what you imagine the best 4-track to sound like. I find like actually on Halfway to the Moon, the final track on your new record, every stem that you gave me to mix, I put it individually all through the chorus echo before I even started mixing it because I just wanted it to have like that
Brit
low,
kind of.
yeah, that lo-fi vibe. And I find that it doesn't sound like an Instagram filter to me when I do that. Sometimes I find if I'm like just using a plugin, like a cassette plugin or something, it reminds me of like either like a crappy Instagram filter or even what was that original app for the phone called like the Super
Like Hipstamatic.
Hipstamatic, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. You know, it's like the second you see it, you're like, oh, it reminds me of this, and then you look closely and you're like, oh, fuck, like it's just so contrast.
Yeah, for sure. That compressor, like the Wolfpack, is like based on the SP303. There's a setting on that sampler that's called the Vinyl Sim, and
oh yeah,
I guess
right.
like Madlib used it on his drum sound, and so those guys kind of like they used to process their drum sounds. I could be wrong, but I think that's the story. They would process their drum sounds
I could
through the 303, and they're like, why don't we just figure out what this thing's doing and then create a compressor that does the same thing? So, and there's a guy that I know that has the 303 and does the stems that way, and they sound amazing. I know it can be brutal to work with.
Well, you have to turn the noise off. Oh,
It's still so noisy though.
why is it so noisy? Holy shit.
But just turn it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm using it, if I get above like this range, I'll just put it on and see what it sounds like.
Take away my trust, take away my dreams. I wanna clear my mind. Give me time to think.
That would be if it give me back my drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Very druggy.
It's interesting. Like I feel like it has to be used in small doses, and that, in this case, I didn't even know about it at this time. And I think listening to it with it on, it's like for 1 second, I'm like, oh, it's so cool, and then
So good, yeah.
But then you lose, like if you have it on too high, you lose all the excitement from the transients, like and those tom hits, whatever. What are those?
That's my 707 here.
Let's look at that.
I'm just trying to see. Mid-shot, hand clap, low tom, high tom, mid tom. So I played those, but then on the back of the 707, you can go out individual outputs for every instrument. So
So that's what the stems are that you gave me.
the stems are they're all the individual.
I mean,
I actually don't know what I ran them through, but
I feel like the reference for me, at least in my mind, when we were mixing those toms, was definitely what's the Phil Collins song with that huge drum fill? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
the air
feel
tonight?
it coming.
Yeah.
Like. I feel like when we started mixing this, there was like a moment where we were like, well,
This is too much?
we either have to go all the way. I remember you being like, I don't know about this like aggressiveness, or I just remember that moment where I was like, well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. I wonder if I have the rough mix in here of that.
Well, I was just thinking about like
No,
the
I don't have
original version of this was like a strummed acoustic guitar song, because I remember playing it for you at Scott and Jossie's wedding in Joshua Tree.
Oh,
remember that place we stayed at?
Yeah, right in the living room there.
Remember we jammed for a couple hours a day. We were just kind of sharing new songs back and forth.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it was like this like jangly kind of thing, and then it was like that for the longest time. And then I tracked it with real drums, and no synths. It was just like a guitar thing. And then at the 11th hour, at the very last minute, I got rid of those drums, played the 707, and added that Korg Triton, which is that kind of breathy.
Oh man, that's the whole like.
It's the whole song.
Whole
it's the whole song.
Should play that. That's so cool because it really, I mean, when I first called the session up, because we spent 2 years, when I first called the session up, I was looking at all the backup vocals and I was like, oh wow, those oohs are really carrying the song. And I was like, that's not Kaylee, that's not Jonas. It's this guy. Oh wait, it's coming up here. It's such a cool sound. That's your like Miami sound machine, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what that vocal thing's called. It's got a funny name.
But you hear that and it immediately transports you in time to like a certain place. I don't know what place that is, but
I was listening to a lot of Cocteau Twins, a lot of Heaven or Las Vegas at the time, and I know this doesn't sound like that, but in my head I think I wanted you to kind of like do something that was like inspired by.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that actually.
That was a reference point for sure. I was listening to like that and a lot of the Blue Nile, and not that the song sounds anything like those two bands, but that kind of era. So the 707 and like that vocal pad thing.
And instead I give you like a gorilla playing a 50 tom fill.
Well, if I'm looking at all my stems and it's like there's so much auxiliary percussion too. There's like there's an extra sub
hand
kick,
claps,
cymbal wash, tom, shaker, cabasa, clave.
Yeah, I have all that here too.
Like one of those grater like thing. I don't know what those are called.
You literally called it the grater thing here.
Grater thing, yeah.
Which I mean, I think it adds quite all this stuff adds a lot. Like here comes.
The grater thing actually plays a huge role.
It's a greater thing. And
a greater thing.
I remember, as we were listening to this, I was watching it go by. I remember we printed that snare echo, which is the Echoplex. Like the... Here, I'll show you. I'm sure people know what that looks like, but what the hell? Can you see that? It's the Echoplex. So that's the drum delay. But I remember we went through, like, I think you conducted me. And there we go. I just automated the mutes. So if you look at the intro here, so this is where we started the song. This is the channel here that it's a lot less than I thought. I just remember you actually like conducting me like, okay, now on these hits, yes, this hit, no. Pretty fun.
Can you solo the toms? Tanner wants to hear, who's watching, he wants to hear the toms soloed.
Toms soloed. I'm sure that can be done. Let's see.
If it's not too much.
We got high tom. Oh, I got a tom bus. High tom, mid tom. Oh, and also there's a reverse reverb on the toms. That's what's giving it that real...
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I forgot I did that. Yeah, that's a pretty fun trick.
A funny thing to see here, I like when I printed off my rough to go to you. This is a song that started in the old studio. Then, so nice.
Try to fit your anecdotes in between so those land, okay?
And then it came into the new studio, and then the buses on all of my toms for my rough mix were 100%. Actually, over 100% were bus to little plate reverb that was sitting at. It's got to be another reverse tom coming here in a second. I'm ready for it.
You got a bit of time. This is the outro.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I think that when I was playing the 707, I was like, I had a massive plate reverb.
Well, I'm looking at what I did here for the toms, and I've had this tom reverb in my Pro Tools mix template for a long time, and I've only used it this one time. And I think I just like was watching somebody else's video, and they were talking about it, so I made it. I listened to it, and I didn't really like it, but I left it there. I just never used it. But this seemed like, I guess this was the time that I used it. Let's see what it's doing. Okay, so that's with it on, and this is with it off. Yeah, it's helping.
It's doing quite a bit.
Yeah, so that's on, and then it's also going to like a non-linear AMS, like the UAD AMS verb, which I love. Excuse me, especially on drums, just like a non-lin. The non-lin 2. That's doing a lot, actually. That's on. This is off. Just kind of adds like it's almost the way I have it set up. It's almost like a stereo delay, like and then it's also going to the harmonizer, which is again a stereo delay. One side's tuned up, one side's tuned down, which is a big part of your vocal sound actually. For the whole,
I was pretty
record.
sure that we hit the H3000 for those drums.
Yeah, we did. Maybe we talk about the vocal sound because I feel like maybe we talked a little bit about this last time, but. When the rough mixes came in, you had already really established that as the template for the whole record, which I mean, it's like it's a very strong aesthetic choice, and it's not an accident, you know. And I love it. And so what was it that you're using? The Microshift, right? Which I mean, that's a great plugin.
It's awesome.
And in this case, we used a setting on the H3000. To do that, which is basically an H910 preset on here that I manipulated a little bit. And so here, let's just play you.
I remember the day, the angle of light sprawling out on the floor, just spinning.
So that's without it.
Big questions ping pong around my brain.
There, it's back again now.
Took the last years and dragged them through the dirt. Tried to love better, but
I mean, it's a cool sound.
Yeah, I like it.
And it's very stylized thing.
I remember the day, the angle of light sprawling out on the floor, just spinning.
And I think for me, the coolest thing about it was that it opened up all these new possibilities for the mix, because if your vocal sounded like this, then to me the mix makes sense with the vocal. You know, it's like it just sounds like the track it almost sounds like you're doing karaoke, because we went for this huge thing, but a lot of that was informed by the fact that your vocals sounded this way. You know, it's not like I made the track and then like, okay, let's put the vocals in, we better make them sound exciting. It was like the vocals sounded exciting, and then we built the track around that, you know.
And that was, I mean, that plugin was on. I would have probably sung the song without it on, because that one does a really weird thing tuning wise. It's kind of because it kind of detunes you. So typically with the Microshift, I'll turn it off, do my takes, put my vocal together, then put it back on. And on that, I was running that Brainworks console.
You're looking at your own session now.
Yeah.
Do you want to share? Do you want to share your screen for a second?
No, it's all right. I can do that.
If you shared your screen, it'll come up on my screen, and then that'll get broadcast. So if you want to,
well, let's do that when we maybe talk about violins or something like that, or some of the other things, because I can show the session.
Yeah,
as opposed to flipping back and forth.
Well, in this case, we didn't end up using the Microshift plugin to do that. We ended up using the hardware to do.
But what I'm saying is that like all along aesthetically, as I was building the track, like adding in all the oohs, adding in all the synths, and adding all the ear candy and stuff, it was always with that Microshift on the vocal, doing what you're talking about, which is kind of guiding the aesthetics the whole
Yeah,
time.
and I think that's an important thing that you like. You just learn as you go. I mean, actually, I feel like when anybody makes a demo, they probably do that. You know, like they make it sound the way they want it to sound every time they do an overdub. And somehow you get into the studio sometimes, and it's like, well, this is how the studio works. And so we can't do those things now. We'll do them later. But all those things inform your next decision. And so it's very like counterintuitive, I think, to wait to make those, even if you're just approximating what it's going to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because like,
For sure.
yeah, you know, everything touches everything, so to speak. And
But I was self-producing too, so it's like with a track like this, it is kind of scary to be out in the studio by myself, like making aesthetic decisions like this, and just
Yeah.
be like, and not having anyone to be like, "Fuck, did I go too far?" Because this,
yeah,
is
but
this like,
that's a funny
you know?
thing about, I feel like, about art. Yeah, like you have to go out. You almost have to go too far. You know, it's like you have to go outside your comfort zone to make it actually be something that's compelling and actually exciting to listen to. And I feel like this is. But it's interesting. You touched on a point that for me is, especially due to COVID-19, a lot of people are home working on stuff on their own, and I myself am working on my own stuff, and I find it very difficult to say, okay, cool, that's good, I'll do the next thing. So I'll either do like 50 takes of something, or I'll do one shitty take and think, I'll come back to that. I don't know when to stop. I don't know when to stop.
Yeah,
Which is
well,
weird.
I think
You know, like as someone who produces other people for a living, I just can't do it to myself.
the funny thing about this that I think is kind of cool, and this happened on a few songs on this record, and it happened specifically with one song on the last Eating Hymns record, Connect the Lines, is that like I made such a drastic change to the song so late in the game that like when I put the 7/7 drums in and I found that synth, that vocal from Triton, I was like, oh, I know what it's called. It's called Nice and Expensive. When I found that nice and expensive vocal pad and I started playing, it was a brand new song again, and I was like, it felt like I was demoing, but it sounded good because I'd been building it and like, you know, and recording it properly, and I changed the drums and I changed the drums and the synth sounds after the string arrangements were done. Like the tempo was there, the string arrangements were done over like the acoustic folkier version of the song, and then I muted all of the drums and the guitars and went back and built the whole kind of like 80s vibe.
That's so fun that you can do that. That you have the ability to do that. You know?
It's so cool. I mean, it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but on
Yeah.
Connect the Lines on the last Eating Hymns record, it was the same thing. It was an acoustic guitar song with analog drums, and Mika played strings on it, and we had this whole arrangement, and I was like, it doesn't feel right. We muted the drums, muted the acoustic guitars, I played it on piano, and we put electronic drums in, and the strings still worked, and that song turned out great because of it.
Well, and I think that speaks to the artistry of it too, to be willing to say it's not working for me, because you can get so far down the road that you're like, it's not working for me, but this is how it is now.
But this song did not work for me for like 7 years. Like I've had the song I had it during the last Evening Hymns, like during Quieties, and I was like, it's not right yet. I'm like, I got to keep working on it. And I'd always play it. I'd play it on guitar and and I was like, it's not working. It's not working. You know? And now when I go and play it on acoustic guitar, like I've like learned it on acoustic again, and I'm like, this is really nice, you know. But this version for me is like, I love the way this turned out.
Cool. Hey, hold on one sec. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
If anybody has any questions, fire away. But I will. I wish I could find I don't think that I can share my screen without Gavin here. But I will talk a little bit about some of the elements that we maybe won't touch on when Gav gets back. But there is a bus of just ooze. There's 4 rounds of ooze that are padding the digital choral sound that's coming from the Korg Triton. Korg Triton's it's a Korg Triton LE workstation. It's like, I bought it when I was like in my early 20s. It was really expensive, and it was such a weird thing for me to buy. There's so many things I should have bought before that, but I bought it, and it's toured with Evening Hymns a whole bunch, and it's weird, and it's been sitting away for like 10 years, and I've just recently pulled it out again, and it's just got some weird sounds that I probably wouldn't normally dial in on something else. So that's going on there. And then in the synth section, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 synths going on. So I've got the Electron Analog 4 happening, which is a synthesizer I use on every record I produce out here. I absolutely love it. It's a little strange, but it's a digitally controlled analog synth, so it makes recall pretty cool. Sounds really nice. It's really good for soundscape stuff. And then 2 channels of that chord Triton that I was talking about, and then there's a thing I call the C, which is a Roland 101, I think it's called. It's a string synthesizer, so kind of like a Selena or something like that, but it's not the same. But it kind of does one thing really good, and I keep it in the studio for that one thing. It's like this really thick. It's hard to call it a string sound, but it gets on everybody's records that I produce out here too, and it's like I'm always like, it's kind of cool. Like it takes up enough real estate that it would be nice if it was able to do a bunch of things, but because it does that one thing so good, whenever I need that one thing, it's always a no-brainer, and I can just grab that thing, and then it works. I always know what it does, and it works.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about my Roland string synthesizer that's called the C.
Yeah, right.
And that I always just call it the C, because to me it just sounds like it's like the C. It's just this like big.
Do you want me to find that on here?
Big thing.
Oh
yeah, sure.
The C. Put my headphones back on 1 sec. The C. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful sound.
Breathe in.
Oh yeah. Let's just talk about that. I remember I can't remember who I was playing it for, and I was just like, I mean, the coolest thing about this version of this song, I didn't hear all the other incarnations of it, but as soon as you hear that, it's just like, how can you not want to dance?
It's funny because that's like a thing that was recorded at the 11th hour. Like that didn't exist before any of the structure, before the strings.
It sounds like you hit a stride of inspiration that the song needed.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I was getting at, is that like it's cool when like when you have a demo and you're demoing, it's the most fun. To me, that's my favorite part of recording. You've written a song and it's just like you're demoing, and it's like everything sounds perfect. The vibe is perfect because you know you're going to record it again, so you're loose.
Yeah, so you don't give a shit. Exactly.
Yeah, you don't give a shit. You play. Everything sounds so good, and then you get in and you nitpick and you obsess about it. And
you fuck it up, yeah.
And then with this thing, it's like I had done that multiple. I'd done it. This is like the fourth studio version of the song, and I was like way past it having any type of like vibe. And then I found this vibe, and then I was like, I just like threw all this stuff on that you mixed, and I was like, I was just inspired. I'm like, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna make this like do 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 hook, and then in the end, it ends up like that hooks the whole song really.
Yeah, and I feel like you can really feel that energy, and that's the hard thing to do as a recording engineer, as a producer, as a studio owner, as an artist, is like find that excitement. I was watching a radio. I've never spent any time really listening to Radiohead aside from like it's been on, and every time it's on, I'm like, I like it, it's cool, I get it, like I think I get it. But yesterday I went down a rabbit hole and started. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is it's them. I watched a little video of them at La Fabrique, which is like an amazing studio in France. And they're just in the control room jamming along to a tape loop that's like a 2-inch on a 2-inch Studer. Just somebody cut a drum loop onto a piece of tape, and this one loop of tape is going over and over. And like 4 of them are in the control room on different synth or instruments, and they're just jamming. And it's so exciting, you know? It's like, I think if you can just create that feeling in the studio, then that gets onto the tape or the computer or whatever. That's when it gets exciting. And I feel like you did on this song probably because you've been so frustrated up to that point, you know, or I don't know how frustrated you were, but in my mind you were frustrated from what you were saying. And then there's this burst of excitement.
It wasn't really frustration because this record actually was pretty fun to make, but it's it's not ready yet.
Right.
I'm like, it's not there. You know, it's not cooked. It's not cooked
And then
yet.
you came up with this. I can just picture you doing like
Oh man, how's this bopping?
that. Sounds insane when you solo it. Like, listen to, is it multiple? Like,
Is there two of it?
it's two tracks, but like, is it? It's not quite in time, like, in a good way.
Oh, you
Or
know
there's
what?
overtones. I don't know. It's nice though. Whatever's happening. I
It's
mixed it.
doubled. There's a doubling thing happening.
Got an analog
So-
4
Yeah.
And,
So what's happening?
chord Triton
is
double with with A4. What's that mean?
that's the analog 4. So what's happening is the Triton. I'm coming out the direct output on the Triton right into my preamp, and I'm also coming at the MIDI out into the analog 4, and it's triggering the analog 4.
Huh.
And then we're coming out of the output of the analog 4 into another.
So it's two sounds, one performance.
Yeah.
Ah, that's cool.
I was doing that actually. I've done that quite a bit, and we did that. I think, I don't know if Nick's still here, if he's still in the chat, but on Nick's record we did on Nick Ferrio's record we did that too, where we were printing like multiple. If I remember correctly, like printing multiple sounds from one performance, which is cool because you have the Triton sound, but then you also have the analog 4, which is like maybe a little bit more contemporary sounding and stuff like that. So it's like just being able to like maybe add low end or like add more sheen or like whatever.
Right, from the same performance.
Yeah,
You're not
which is cool.
recording the MIDI. You're just recording. You're just triggering it live and recording the audio.
Yeah. Just the MIDI's is speaking from the Triton to
Right,
the analog 4.
right.
Yeah.
That's smart because as soon as I start recording actual MIDI, I just get confused.
Yeah, but at some point I had 3 MIDI instruments go. Oh, and also, but I don't think it's on this track. But let me just look. But I was also firing like a Model D, like Behringer's clone of the Model D. I don't think it's on here though.
Not on
somewhere
this
else,
one.
maybe on Pyrenees potentially. Like it triggers the analog 4 and the Model D. It was just kind of a fun thing to do because like you can. It's just like, you can just play with settings on all 3 synths until you make this like super unique sound that you can't get from anywhere else. It's like so unique.
That's so exciting then, because you're just like, you're using those 3 instruments to create one voice.
Yeah.
With all those rich overtones and things, and then that allows me to like almost use the faders like EQ in that way. Like favor the overtones of this one versus this one. That's fun. Yeah, cool. And so the other synths, the only other synth in here that we didn't touch on is what's called the ARP, which is just something arpeggiating. I don't know what it is, but hi.
Yeah, the lazy guy. Is that Oyster?
Yeah. She just lets herself in the studio sometimes. Where are the treats? Are they out here? Come here.
The analog 4, yeah, that lazy sky is like a sound I use quite a bit on soundscapey stuff, and it's like a patch that I just like designed kind of.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then there's a sub bass happening too, which is what you might expect. And
that's on the analog 4 too.
Assuming I use the Moog filter. Yeah. Which is doing a lot actually if you That's pretty crazy. It's a lot. Here's with it off and then on. Pretty heavy-handed. Yeah, I feel like in that case with the sub bass, it's just like, excuse me, it sounds drastic on its own, but in the mix it's so subtle. But the actual LFO pulsing it just lets you hear it without it having to be louder.
Yeah.
Like,
super effective.
Which is cool.
Can you jump to the bass part? Because the bass in this, I had bass in the song, and then that I had played, and then I sent it off to my buddy Joe, plays bass on a couple tunes on the record, and I just feel like his bass on this is really, it's doing a lot of work in the song.
Oh yeah, it almost has like a Walk on the Wild Side thing happening.
Yeah, it totally does.
Oh right, so what we have here then for the bass is the bass DI, which is what he would have sent us, and then oh yeah, that's nice. I think the Sanzam is doing quite a bit there actually. mean, it's a great bass tone on its own.
That would be his bass into a noble. I think, if I'm right, like a noble. Oh, it's such a good bass line.
Yeah. And then what does this sound like without the? That's just the DI. This is the bass amp without the sounds amp. Yeah, so a lot of that is, I mean, it's his
Sound
playing.
Amp's really driving it, eh?
Yeah. And it looks like we rode the sounds amp quite a bit actually, so it comes up quite a bit. And like if you look back in the verse here, it's. Oh yeah, right. So actually, we should talk about this. When Josh sent us the bass, he wanted us, because I think he came by maybe when we reamped it. Is that right?
Maybe, but I think he sent the bass to me, and I put it through the Pultec and through my MC77, and then it came as a stem to you.
Okay, and then we reamped it here through the Ampex.
Through the flip top, yeah.
Yeah, but then, which is in the corner over there behind the vacuum cleaner. Oyster, what are you doing? Get out of the garbage. I think Josh came by and saw that I had that chorus ensemble pedal, and like really wanted it to be used in this.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing here, just looking at the stem, is that, and even just listening, you can hear it. I must have printed it with and without, and then we went through and made a comp where it's in certain sections. Like here, it's obviously like check this out. You can hear it's like that's super watery,
yeah.
Which is awesome. And then if you flip to the chorus. No, the sound amp's pretty pronounced there. No sound amp. And that's no chorus either with the chorus. It's a cool chorus.
It's pouring rain out.
And then so the bass is going just a little bit 560, ducking in 250. And then, what's this? Oh yeah, I have it patched into Day King FET compressor, which is just a FET compressor made by Day King. And it's doing quite a bit actually. Let's see. I'll show you. Yeah, the compressor's working pretty hard, and I think for me what it's doing is it's fairly fast, but it's not so fast that it's cutting off like the attack. So a lot of the pokiness is getting through, and for a bass line this big, for me that's important, just so you can actually hear those notes, and then the rest of the bass doesn't get muddy. Cut it up. There's Oyster.
Yes, Oyster right there.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. What else do you want to talk about here?
Well, I'd like to solo the strings too, because I really love that string moment that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy Edwin came into the studio and put strings on a bunch of stuff in different states. Like this song was obviously drastically different when he played on it. Just fun to send him the final record, because it's like, you know, he lives in California and he's like here and plays on it. And then I'm like, here's the record, and it's like, it's almost like this song probably doesn't sound anything like what he originally played to.
Which part are you thinking? The bridge or the
it's
like this section?
Nice weird note right here.
Yeah, that's a cool moment.
Okay.
And then what happens?
But at the moment, yeah, right
oh,
here.
Yeah. For me, that's like such a David Axelrod moment in a really great way.
That part I think is so it's so plays into that the moment that comes after, which is like that final verse, which I think you dry the vocal. Is the vocal become totally dry there or something? Isn't that something we did?
Something
Maybe
happens there. What? What? Ah, so cool. Oh yeah, all the reverbs are gone.
Goes away like the sad recollection of a sunny day, or the script of a dreamer that I love to play. It goes on.
So I feel like that string part by Eddie there, as it comes into that, like it like builds up and there's like this like little vacuum, and then the vocals dry makes you like really
really sucks it in. It also it's interesting because it also feels like goes to this real hip hop kind of moment, especially with the way you deliver your vocals are so syncopated in that part. And I love how dry it is, and it feels, because it's so dry, it feels kind of aggressive. It gets like really close to you. Which is interesting. I mean, this isn't something that I thought of at the time, but like, as I was saying, the Axelrod thing, like so much of Axelrod's music was sampled in early, like NWA stuff. So it's an interesting little intersection.
And I'm not
maybe
just,
maybe that's a bit of a reach.
Yeah, no, that was my inspiration.
Yeah.
And this vocal's like, well, it's not super comped, but it's like it's pretty compy. So I'm just trying to remember. We used my vocal from here. We didn't redo that. We didn't redo this one at your place.
I don't think so. I see Jonas vocal.
Yeah. Okay.
13.L. Oh well, let's see.
So maybe it is at your place. I was gonna say my
No,
vocal is like
no,
pretty comped here.
No, this is no. There's basically no comp. It's just me. I'm just doing a little bit of gain adjusting on clip adjusting. Not a lot, actually. It looks like the vocal came in pretty compressed, actually. Yeah. I have this memory actually, and when I was listening to them prepping for this session, of the moment where you say ping pong, and I added this like ping pong delay, and we talked to him, and you're like, no, I don't do that, and I did it anyway, but it's so subtle when I listen to it, like not thinking about it, I almost don't hear it. It's in the first verse, right?
Yeah.
I remember the day, the angle light sprawling out on the floor, just spinning. Big questions ping pong around my brain.
What is doing that? Is that the prime time? Yeah. I just cranked the prime time up there.
I went for a break.
My brain.
Yeah, I think that was that right after oh god, now I'm just getting gear talky, but was that after I got the prime time when we started making this record? I think so.
Yeah, no, 100% for sure.
Which is
I mean, I remember when we were making this record, like I would be on Kijiji and just be like, Gav, there's like there's an SSL bus compressor, a Tobico, and like we'd be like, all right, we'd take a break, drive and go and get it.
God, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the studio was shaped actually during the making of this record in terms of like, well, the retro, the Burl, which is
the Neves, or the AMLs.
Yeah, the MLs, yeah. The prime,
the Burl.
Yeah, the Burl actually. I mean, I don't know how it will lose people on talking about clocking, but it's made such a difference in the sound of my studio. And it could, I mean, I don't know if it's just the clocking or if it's also the transformer that it's hitting on the way in, but God, it sounds so good to me when I listen to music through it.
How's the jitter, bud?
Oh, best in the biz.
Actually, a pretty fun story about Mixless Records that me and Gavin went to AES Music Conference in New York City when this was that at the end or middle or something like that, or the end probably.
We were pretty close to the end because we were like looking at mastering engineers then.
Yeah, that's right. And
so it was October.
Yeah, it's like a pretty geeky like gear convention, but like a lot of people speak, like there's conferences and stuff. It was amazing. We had a ton of fun. But yeah, I definitely like remember having made this record, and we talked gear the entire time we made the record because we both run studios and like we both like gear obviously, and just like being around all that gear. But we got to go. You talked to
what's his name? Dave Hill.
Dave Hill, yeah.
Yeah. That's the guy actually that makes that plugin that I showed. What's it called? The Phoenix?
Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, this.
But
plugin.
he's got the same thing that the Brill does. He has a thing called the Head 192 that but he was going to Gavin about the jitter. What is it? It's jitter free or something like that.
No, he said it's the best jitter
Best
in the
jitter.
biz. It was a funny conversation. It was he was a very kind man wearing like a Hawaiian shirt with a long white ponytail. Which I could see myself that.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
You definitely
I think I was talking to him about the differences between the 192 and like the newer version, and he was like, the new version has the best jitter in the biz. Anyhow, that's enough jitter.
So enough chitter chatter about the jitter.
Did you want to go over the strings more? I mean, it's interesting. What we did with strings a lot was reamp them. Although in some sections of this song, like on the bridge there, oh no, it's reamp still. Never mind. Reamp. So when I say reamp, I mean Jonas track. That's like basically Edwin became a string section for you, right?
Yeah.
Like you can see here, these are not multiple mics; these are multiple performances of Edwin creating essentially like a string section. And what we did was we actually took those, and I have them on different faders, obviously, and I sent them out to my old Princeton amp, and we kind of played it like a mellotron in a way, like sort of used the faders, push certain voices, and then all that got sort of compressed by the tubes in the amp. Then we recorded that back in and then mixed that in with the original signal. So this is it with the mix. I'll just play the bridge here. And then if I mute the amp, it's not doing actually that much in this song. There's just the amp. Such a beautiful sound. What a nice crescendo. Yeah. Anyway, it's just I find that adding that, and also it's running to the Echoplex as well, which is sort of essentially I'm using it to make it stereo. So here's with the Echoplex also. Oops. You're kind of moving across the stereo field. I find that those two, like the amp and the Echoplex combined, just make the string section sound old in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I mean, that was super effective on the entire record. I feel like, and like that, I think that you totally, when we were mixing those, like the reamping of it, brought it to the place that, like, I think that those strings, because Eddie plays on quite a few songs on the record, that's part of the album sound too. That like that old string sound.
Yeah.
Or like Serge kind of like.
Serge, yeah, totally Serge Gainsbourg. That's a good reference. And for me, that's how I want to. Most of the time, that's how I want to hear strings. You know.
Definitely. Is there a way for me to play? Is there a way for me to play off of my?
Yeah,
if I share screen and the audio, can you? I just have the demo. I just have a bit. I mean, I have one of many demos. But
here, you share your screen with me. Let me just unsolo this stuff. So yeah, anything you send down the Zoom will go to the YouTube. So go for it.
You've disabled attendee screen sharing.
I have?
That's what it says, bud.
How do I... What? Can I request your screen share? Allow... I can make you the host. There. Now you do whatever you want. You're the host now.
Here we go. Hopefully you guys can't see that. Desktop. Oh yeah, share computer sound. Here we go. Come on.
Trying to hack the mainframe. Here we go. What is this? What are you showing us here?
It's just in my Dropbox.
Okay.
you hear that?
I can. Let me just make sure it's going to the Pro Tools. Yeah. Yeah, they
must
can
be
hear
good.
it. Yep. Fuck, how do I get back to your screen?
This might not even have all the right lyrics.
What version
I
is this?
remember the days, the angle of light sprawling out on the floor, just spinning. Big questions ping-ponging around in my brain. Took the last years and dragged them through the dirt. Tried to love better, but it only hurt. Juggling the tumbling weeds of this deserted heart. Take away my drugs, take away my dreams. I wanna clear my mind, give me time to think. Don't know
So that's the same string performance?
That's what Edwin originally recorded his strings over.
Oh wow! So you just did the whole thing to a click then, and so then you could easily.
Yeah. Then that piano, yeah, because then I recorded on Rhodes piano. That's the CP. So none of that. The only thing I kept from that performance was Edwin's strings,
That's cool.
and built the rest of the track around that.
Ah, cool.
I want to find. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
If you do that, then you won't be sharing your audio anymore either. But
Did I stop the screen share?
Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah. That's okay. I'm just wondering if there's anything else I just want for one more thing. If you can just kill time for 1 sec, Gav.
yeah.
Oh, you're not sharing. Yeah, you can.
No,
you have to share your
people
screen.
are seeing. No, they can see my screen. They're only seeing my screen. I'd be happy to just quickly talk about the vocal chain. So what I have set up here, I guess I could share my screen with Jonas so he can see it too. Oh no, you now disabled the 10D screen share.
What?
That's okay. People can see my Pro Tools screen. That's fine. So this, what you're seeing here highlighted, this is just the track that came in from Jonas, the vocal track, and I did just a slight bit of clip gaining. And then this track feeds another track, and on this track I have a hardware insert, which is actually an 1176 hardware version feeding a retro 176, and they're set to quite different attack and release times. The 1176 is quite fast, and the 176 can be quite fast, but I don't have it set very fast. And it's also not compressing very much, just getting a really nice tone of the box. And then that's coming back into Pro Tools, which is feeding this vocal aux, which this vocal aux is what you're hearing, but it's also feeding these other 4 channels, which all show up as faders for me, and these are all just kind of different tone shaping ideas, I guess you would call them. And then instead of having to go into an EQ or a bunch of effects, I can set each of them, and then I can automate their volume, which feeds the final vocal based on the section and the tone. So I have a Fairchild emulator plugin here, which is one of the channels, and then I actually love this plugin. I think I talked about this last time. I don't use it on guitars ever, but I use it on a lot of other stuff. Sometimes I'll have a parallel bus of the entire mix going to this amp plugin, mostly because it always works in phase, as opposed to me sending a hardware insert to an amp of the whole mix. You can really run into problems there, and I really like how this plugin sounds. So that's in there a touch, just to give some grit. And then I have this sort of multiband idea, which is I'm boosting a ton of high end, compressing it, boosting a ton of low end and a ton of high end, cutting cutting a bunch of low and high end on the way in. So you're just getting mid-range essentially to the compressor. So the compressor is compressing the mid-range, and then I'm boosting the high and low at the end. And so essentially what I use this for is like breathiness and brightness. And so I bring that in and out. And then I just have this 33609, which just sounds awesome. And then that all feeds this vocal channel. Jonas, did I kill enough time for you there?
Yeah, for sure. I was just trying to find like the very, very...
I could quickly go over the effects too that are on the vocal.
Yeah, take one more peek, because I'm just looking at an old hard drive to see if I can find
Yeah.
the original, the very original demo from like 6 years ago or
Where's
something.
this? Oh, the de-esser. I have a de-esser. This is before I got the Soothe plugin. If I had the Soothe plugin, I definitely would have used it because things amazing. But I have a de-esser and then just a Massenburg EQ shaping the vocal at the end. And then it's going out to BX20. I think this is probably pre the hardware BX20. Yeah. I have a hardware BX20 in the studio now, thanks to a friend. But I was using the plugin, which is also great. And then it's also going to an EMT plugin, and then the prime time I talked about, which is this lexicon box over here. I'm boring people a little bit. Sorry. It's this guy in the middle, which is to me, I don't know. It's just like the classiest sounding delay I've ever heard. It just sounds really great. I love it. And I use it with slightly different timing on the left and the right side, so it sort of creates like the vocal. I don't use it so it's very loud, so you don't hear delay very much. It just makes the vocal seem like instead of here, it's like here. And then the H3000. God, every time I'm like, oh, and just this. Also, it's going to a Dimension D, which is this Roland box over here. And then that's the H3000 underneath it, and the Chorus Echo underneath that, which is a really great box. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's the vocal sound.
Okay, cool. I found this demo. Great. This is from... Let me just see where it's from here.
Let me put you back on the screen here. There you
It's
go.
gotta be a million years old. Sorry, I share my screen. Oh, you gotta make me host again.
You are the host.
No, I made you host there while you were chatting.
Oh, you son of a bitch. How do I do that now? Are you sure?
Tyler says that's a really cool Vox chain. Yeah, I did that on your phone, Gav.
Oh, you made my phone the host.
I didn't know which one was which.
Oh, Christ.
Sorry.
Meeting settings. Nah, people are just see me stare into my phone.
That's what everyone's doing.
That's true. I actually don't know how to do that on here. Let me see.
Yeah, let me see if I can make this guy host. No.
No, you can't once you're not the host anymore. Okay, damn. Okay.
Because you.
There, I allowed participants to share screen, so.
Oh, thank you.
There you are. You go ahead and share your screen. It is a cool vocal chain. Thanks for that. And it's changed since then. Actually, I've since then acquired a retro stay level, which is part of my chain now, which is a great unit, except that it's really true to its name and that it stays level. And I just find that I was telling Jonas this earlier, I have to go through and essentially like clip gain the the breaths and mouth sounds down by like 18 dB to make them so it doesn't sound like every breath is a gasp, which is a bit of a hassle, but it's a trade-off because the box sounds so good. So it takes a bit of extra time, but anyway, yeah, it's worth it.
This might be a little loud, Gab. You might have to change the structure. Anyways, this is the.
You can turn it down on your.
This is the original demo of this track. It's unrecognizable basically, but the song is called "Not the Field or the Stream." That was what the original thing was. But there's something that I like. That I don't believe there's. Oh shit! There probably is horrible lyrics for the verses that don't really. I don't know. Anyways, the song changed drastically, so I'm just gonna play it. but the way that it goes into the chorus, I always I chased it until the very end, and it doesn't sound, it never ended up like that, but I just like, I remember always loving the way this chorus felt, and I haven't heard this in like years. So anyways, here goes nothing.
If you leave me here, I swear I'm gonna write a love song. I will not write about wood or about where I come from. This is no song about my brothers, my sister, or my mother. Try to forget the things I've known about the sound of wind blowing.
And
That's
we'll
the
skip
same
chorus.
song?
Just wait.
I will not struggle about the sky. The moon becomes another object when seen through quantitative eyes. Take away my trust, take away my dreams, let me clear my mind, give me time to think. Don't know where I'm running to, don't know if I care. Wanna feel the wheels moving, feel me moving through the air.
Oh yeah. I mean, it has a way. It's got like a sort of war on drugs or vibe or something.
Yeah, that's old though. That's like
Nobody told the piano player that the music's between the notes, I guess.
But anyways, I just like remember, and the
That's
song
cool,
goes
though.
on. It goes on for such a long time too, and I
That's-
just always just really loved that. I mean, the lyrics, it's interesting too to hear that, because I haven't heard that in a really long time. It's like the lyrics are just like singing about like not writing a love song, and not writing a song about my brothers or my sister or my mothers, because I was like coming at like writing that after writing Spectral Dusk, but before writing Quiet Energies, and like wanting to move away from writing about my family, not because I don't love them, but just because like I need to get away from writing these sad fucking songs about my dad and stuff. So it's interesting to hear that. I mean, the song ultimately ended up becoming a breakup song, and it was a love song too. So it's like, anyways, it's interesting to go back and hear that. But that chorus is pretty much still intact. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the verse is completely different. I mean, the vibe was also quite cool.
Yeah, I was digging that.
Was,
But, man,
was that you playing drums?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I love it. So driving.
Anyways, I just think that's kind of a cool. I mean, that's a cool thing about keeping all of those. I think that's just like fun. It's for me. It's fun to see that even on my own stuff. It's just like cool to see that process. You know.
Yeah. And then you can release it all at the end.
Tyler was also asking which frequencies you were de-essing on that vocal chain, Gav.
The bad ones. Oops, I bypassed it. Show editor. Between 5K and 10K, it looks like. Let's see what that does.
Lay down in the hayfields, hopeless thoughts could.
It's not working very hard.
Out of my mind. Out of my
I mean, the interesting thing with this song in particular is there's like, I didn't have to do a whole lot of notch filtering because it's a lot of drum machines and stuff, so there's not a ton of like overtones and things that are fighting with each other. So when I was like, oh, I would have used the Sooth plugin, maybe I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know what that is, I'll show you because it's
Yeah, pull that little baby up because it's incredible.
so good. It makes everything so easy. It's like cheating. There it is.
Yeah, this is a hot tip.
Yeah, I'll see. So essentially, it's like a dynamic EQ with I don't know how many like points.
It's like infinite points, kind of.
Yeah, and it's sort of counterintuitive in this sense. And this took me like a second to get used to, in the sense that the more you're boosting, you're actually telling the plugin to focus on those areas. And so if you want, like, okay, I'm finding the vocal to be harsh or bitey in this, what is that, 3.5 range, you'd grab that and bring it up, and then it would tell it to focus more on those and dip them more, so you'll see. Or is it right? But honestly, actually, in this song, I'm not finding like I love what it's doing, and I wouldn't probably do very much with it. Again, it's like, I guess the thing with, right, I forgot about that plugin that goes, everything's sort of affecting everything, and so at this point, to introduce something like a really significant dynamic EQ on the lead vocal would really change the rest of the chain. And in that case, it was like really affecting things and making it too quiet, making it less exciting. It's like, I also, like, sometimes I love when things are pokey at 1.5-ish K or 3, not necessarily 3.5, but like there's like some like gut punching excitement in that range. Yeah, so it just shows me like how much a small change like that can be a massive change to the whole song. So anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. It's cool. I think there's a couple of people just saying, talking about getting to hear that demo, and I think that like that, when I think about this song, I've never had a song that stayed with me for so long that just kind of was like, I always knew. I've always really like loved this chorus of this song. And I even remember when I played it for you in Joshua Tree, I was just like, I don't really have lyrics for the verses yet, but I had the chorus. Like, the chorus has been intact. It hasn't really changed that much, you know. And even like when that demo, it's like there's that those oohs padding the choruses that are not really unlike what the chord Triton, the heavy lifting that the chord Triton does and stuff, and the choral oohs that, you know, that exist in the actual final version stuff. But like, I think that's like a cool thing to carry something with you for that long, and just like wait for like the right material, like the right content, the right like life experience to like allow you to like put together the rest of it. Like, I always knew that was going to be a song, you know, and what I thought was going to be a great song. I was like, this course is going to like be something that, like, you know, I have to finish it at some point, but I was never like, I'm going to sit down and force myself. I wrote a bunch of different versions of it, but
well, you can't force it, because if you do, it ends up being a piece of shit.
Yeah, but I just think but this was like I don't know how long Scott and Jossie have been married for, but
I think now. 6 years or 5 or 6 years. But you know, it's funny, I think about that all the time, because I remember reading like early on in my trajectory of writing songs about Neil Young saying it took him 10 years to write Powderfinger, and thinking like, how the hell does it take 10 years to write a song? But then you realize it can, you know, if you don't capture it all in that like initial moment of inspiration, it can drag on forever. I
think that's such a good point. Like, definitely, I feel like when you have those moments where like you like into whatever it is that happens, it's like you gotta milk it and like stay in it and not check your phone or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very easy to get distracted, but you can't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gone.
Yeah, until 7 years later, and you finally.
Well, honestly, that's what it takes. Otherwise, I mean, I've definitely forced it on songs, and I hate those songs.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's like, I don't know if anyone else can tell or not, but I can tell.
I know which ones.
You know which ones I'm talking about. But you know what I mean? It's like yeah. I don't know. I think, you know, I was reading it's called Songwriters on Songwriting, just a book about songwriters, and they were talking about like what is a songwriter. I think it was Paul McCartney that said it's like, it's knowing when to get out of bed to write down the idea that you had, or just to go back to sleep, you know.
there's a funny Mitch Hedberg, like the comedian.
Oh yeah.
Mitch
That's a
Hedberg.
great
His thing
bit.
is just like some nights I wake up in my hotel bed with a really good joke, and I have to convince myself that it's not good.
Yeah, he's like, I either got to get up and find a pen, or else I got to convince myself what I wrote ain't funny.
It's not worth it. I love that. But when I think about it is so. I think about that all the time. Where sometimes you'll be laying in bed and just be like, it's not. You'll go, I'll remember it, and you never do.
Well, yeah, I was watching it was Andrew Bird and Jonathan Richman talking, and I'm such a big Jonathan Richman fan that I was like, I could grin and bear it, but I didn't love everything about it. But they talked about that exact thing. It's like how Jonathan was like, or maybe it was, I don't know. One of them was like, yeah, I used to just, if you can't remember it, it's not worth remembering. And they're both just like, yeah, that's not true. It's like, if you have something great, record it right now.
Yeah, 100% for sure. When I think about
then you can decide later it sucks.
And there's a lot of those.
Yeah, fuck.
There is, when I look through the track listing for the new Evening Hymns record, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 8 songs were all written in one go, like one.
Those are the ones that's what you want, or at least I think that's what you want. I was gonna say that's what I want, but I think that's what you want.
No, it's what I want, because I definitely feel like it's so difficult, like to get back
to that space.
And like write like a third verse or something like that. It's like
anytime I've done that and I've recorded it that way and released it, I'll perform it without that verse, because I'm just like, why did I listen to somebody and add that stupid fucking verse?
Yeah, but then someone that goes to that show is just like, oh, he didn't sing my favorite verse.
No, they were all like, thank God he cut that piece of shit.
Yeah, we knew that was weak.
But it is true. It's like, it's so difficult to get back. I would rather write 8 verses in that moment of inspiration and then whittle it down to 3. Like, just write.
Yeah,
just
I've never done that. It's like if
I've been doing that
I'm
lately.
always like just trying to get it. It's like just trying to get through it.
Yeah. Well, it comes in different incarnations every time, and that's the cool thing about it. Every time I finish a song, I think I'll never write another one again. Or I'll never remember how I could ever write a song. You know what I mean? It's like, sorry.
I know. I 100% agree. I think that's like such a rad thing about the process, that it's never a given. Maybe we're done,
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually tracked a song since the last song on this record, but actually like an actual full song. I have a million sketches and like lyrical ideas and stuff like that, but like I'm not really writing outside of the writing for them. I think that like for the most part these are like pretty dedicated projects, also because I'm producing and writing for a lot of other people, writing for other people's records when they're here and stuff like that I get to scratch that itch. So
yeah, it's a funny thing though, because like you go through the process of making a record and you learn so much. I find every single time I make a record, whether it's my music or someone else's music, I just learn so much, and that I want to take it and use it for my own writing right away. But it doesn't really work like that. You don't get to pick when you're inspired.
No, but I do 100% agree. But there is like, it's still like it's like the flexing of that muscle. It's like listening, and like I've been doing a lot of listening in the last few months, more than I normally get to, of just like long walks with my son with like headphones on, like really like listening to records, and I feel like I'm learning, just as much from that as like sitting with the guitar in my hands or at the piano. But when I do sit down at the guitar and the piano, like stuff comes to me as quick as it used to, if not quicker. So there's different ways to do it. I think I definitely am not feeling like I think at the beginning of the lockdown you would kind of carve it a couple hours in the morning and maybe a couple at night that you were trying to like songwrite, and I was really admirable of that, because I was like, oh, that's a good practice, and I know that if I did that, I would like produce songs, and I'm still thinking obviously about that, but still the record cycle too, so it's like there's no whatever.
But there's also that idea, it's sort of twofold. I think what you're saying is like on one it is a muscle and you have to flex it, and you have to like make the time to write. whether that's like making the time when you have the inspiration, just saying, okay, inspiration's coming, I need to push everything else away, or sitting down and doing it for 2 hours or whatever. That's one side of it. The other side of it is ingesting. It's like, I remember the quote that I love where it's just like nothing in, nothing out. It's like if you're not ingesting and you're not like learning and listening and like taking, whether it's music, TV, books, conversation, whatever it is, if you're not taking things in, what are you going to write about?
Yeah, but I think we're lucky enough that this is like what we get to do for a living. So I feel like it's all input constantly. Like when I'm on my bike or you're running, that's still part of your songwriting process. At least that's the way I look at. When I'm reading a book, it's part of my songwriting process.
Oh, that's what I mean. Absolutely.
Recording another band, it's part of my songwriting process. And if I'm like hanging out with my son or like whatever, listening to the radio or anything, it's all part of like even if I'm listening to the news, it's like I'm still thinking about the human condition. And
yeah, I want to write about COVID-19 and that. That
I do not. But cool. Well, I think that let me just check back on the thing here.
Yeah, probably wrap it up here.
I think we probably should. If there's no question,
we could plather on about pontificate on, but
I think we covered it all. Awesome. John and Gavin, stop throwing T-bone steaks in your garbage. That's when Oyster was in the room.
Right.
John Hines, he doesn't,
He doesn't have a dog.
He doesn't have a dog. You can get it.
They like awesome. Anything in the garbage, John.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Buds, for tuning in, and I think we're going to leave this one up because I think the audio quality was a little bit better than last time. Yeah, Even Him says we have another tune that's going to drop in, I don't know, in the next
let me put you back on the screen here. Sorry, you're not on. There you are.
In the next couple of weeks, there'll be another Even Him single out, and then we're getting close to album release time. So we're going to, hopefully Gav will do this again for me.
I'm having fun.
It's fun to drink beers in the country and chat to you.
Drinking beers in the city.
Anyways, everybody, thanks, Gav. Thanks.
Take care of your loved ones.
Tyler says he's listening and shopping for those plugins.
Oh, shit. That sucks. Good luck. I know how much they cost.
Yeah.
They're good.